Wall Street veteran Bernard Madoff has been arrested and charged with running a $50 billion Ponzi scheme.
Congress wants to know what caused the Enron meltdown.
Now, while the collective rage currently is focused on WorldCom,
Tyco CEO Dennis Kozlowski was convicted of looting hundreds of millions of dollars.
This is one of the biggest fraud cases ever.
Their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
Find out more on this week's episode of White Collars, Red Hands.
We've all wished at some point in our lives that money would just magically appear in our bank accounts, that we could just snap our fingers and we would be richer than we ever thought possible. Truong Mai Lan is a Vietnamese businesswoman who did just that. She had more money than she ever could imagine, and it seemed as if it appeared almost out of nowhere. But sometimes things are not as they appear, and the consequences could be deadly. Find out what happened on this week's episode of White Collars, Red Hands.
See, I wish I could do that. And then you think, well, if everyone could do that, everyone would have $1 million. And at that point, no one has $1 million and inflation's at a sky high rate.
It already is.
And you can't afford milk and you're burning money for heat and, you know, you're eating people in the streets. So, you know, sometimes a well-intentioned wish can have unforeseen consequences. So,
I want to be the only one with that power. I wouldn't give that power to other people.
Oh, so just capitalism. Yes.
Yes.
We're already doing that.
We are. And that is why we do this podcast. Welcome to another episode of White Collars, Red Hands.
I'm Kashan.
And I'm Nina. We were back last week. Never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Do you just I feel like after you leave my front door when we're recording, someone locks you in cryostasis and then wakes you up to come back, and you've somehow still forgotten everything we talked about last week.
Here's the deal. I have had a lot of brain trauma. 2 concussions, 4 rounds of COVID. It's not good up there.
Yeah.
So we forget a lot of stuff.
Yeah. This is just Andrew Luck on the podcast right now.
Yes. I don't know who that is.
He's a quarterback that got fucked up a lot.
Oh.
He had to retire early because he just got injured way too much.
Oh, man. Poor guy.
So, not very lucky. Am I right?
No, not lucky at all. Not lucky at all. And neither is the person we're going to talk about today. So this is actually one of the biggest fraud cases I think that we've covered here on White Collars, Red Hands, which is
the biggest fraud cases
ever.
Yeah, by the numbers, right?
Yes.
I think it is.
It's definitely the biggest fraud case that we know of.
Perpetrated especially by one single individual. Maybe if you're talking about countrywide fraud.
Yeah.
It could get to these levels, but
this is 100% the biggest fraud case in Southeast Asia. But honestly, I haven't heard of any other ones that have come to light that were this big.
In Southeast Asia?
No, in even in America.
Yeah, no.
No,
I don't think so.
This is a pretty crazy episode. It has been pretty big in the news internationally, and I mean we're going to get into it. But Truong Mai Lan was a Vietnamese billionaire who was convicted of staggering amounts of fraud, and she was convicted earlier this year. Now, like I said, this story drew a lot of attention worldwide because Truong was sentenced to the death penalty for her crimes.
Something that they have not enacted here in America for financial crimes.
Not for financial crimes.
They did it in France for 20 years.
Really?
Yeah, I think it was called the French Revolution.
Oh.
It was something like that.
Can you hear the people sing?
Yeah, well, that was 10 years after that,
Wait, what was?
Les Mis. It
was after the French Revolution?
Yeah, Roch sings that whole song about now we have another king. He's no better than the last. Yeah, they're trying to start a second French Revolution.
Oh.
Come on, bro.
Dude, Les Mis is so long. Master of the House, that's the only song I care about.
It's the longest running musical of all time.
Longer than Phantom?
Yeah, it was on the West End, though.
Longer than Cats?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
I think so. Maybe it's just on the West End. I don't know. Maybe speaking out my yes. I know it's the longest running musical on the West End.
I'll tell you what the longest running musical was on my end. It was Ghost.
South Pacific?
Okay, let me get back to
You want to pull out some more classical age musicals?
Carousel,
That's Oklahoma.
the Music Man.
Pirates of Penzance.
Shit, what's that? What's it? My Fair Lady? Does that count?
I think it was made after the movie, so I don't know.
Oh, really?
I think so. No, I don't know. Anyway,
Annie, Get Your Gun.
I don't even know what that is. I'm out. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, I win. Back to Truong My Land, who has probably never watched any of those musicals.
I don't know.
Although treason is punishable by death in the United States, we usually only see the death penalty used when someone has committed murder or another violent crime.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if we were putting people on the death penalty for treason, we would see a lot of people who participated in the January 6th insurrection with the death penalty now. Because that is technically treason.
But is it high treason? I don't know the difference.
Only if they smoked weed beforehand. Now, the death penalty is used more frequently in Vietnam than it is in the United States and many other countries. Vietnam does not tend to disclose how many people are executed. It was found that from 2013 to 2016, Vietnam executed over 400 prisoners. That they told us about. The United States executed 122 in the same amount of time.
So quite a bit more. There's got to be a lot less people in Vietnam than there is in America. And we have the highest population of incarcerated people.
Yes.
So
yes. I will end up saying I'll just say it now. Population of Vietnam is about 98 million. So we are over 3 times bigger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they had 4 times more
the executions. Yeah.
So I'm going to bring up again how many people are there. But honestly, that both seems kind of high to me.
Yeah, we even have some states where it's illegal, though.
Yeah.
There have been states that have abolished the death penalty. I
mean, I think we should, but that's just me.
No, I agree.
What do I know? Thank you, Ronald Reagan, for bringing that back. So Vietnam actually currently has about 1,200 prisoners right now with death penalty sentences. I did not do the research to find out how long a person tends to sit on death row in Vietnam.
Because in America, it's like a decade or
It's
plus,
a long
right?
time in America. I'm not quite sure about Vietnam. But what is so interesting about Truong My Lan is she is one of the only women in Vietnam to be sentenced to death for white-collar crimes. So men tend to get this sentence for nonviolent crimes more than women.
But there have been others?
It said she was one of the only. That's all I could find.
I guess the numbers seem to be kind of obscured here, right? So it's
well,
we don't
and
always know.
that 400 number that we have from 2013 to 2016, they're not even sure that's an accurate number.
Yeah, that has a that we know of after it.
Right.
You got to know the 400 that we know of.
Yeah. They are really secretive about that data. Kind of seems a little willy-nilly. Like, you could get that sentence pretty easily.
That's fair. It's probably not. Yeah, it's probably not something that countries. If you're killing a lot of people, they probably don't want to tell you.
No, and they've also come under fire from the EU with their death penalty. What's the word I want to use? Like
policy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're probably not really releasing truthful numbers because. Yeah. It would become a bigger issue.
Well, it's like if you probably ask how many people are executed in North Korea, it's like -3.
Yeah, we don't execute anybody.
Yeah, we actually rebirth people.
We only give birth. No one dies in North Korea.
Yeah, no.
Truong My Lan was born in 1956 and comes from a Sino-Vietnamese family. Sino-Vietnamese refers to a portion of Vietnamese vocabulary that has Chinese roots. So Truong's family comes from Ho Chi Minh City, which has a lot of Chinese influence there.
Yeah, and also had an influence on one Billy Joel song.
Which one?
Ho Chi Minh, Richard Nixon back again. So we didn't start the fire. To be fair, there's a lot of words in that song, but yes.
I only know the chorus. Ho Chi Minh City is the largest city in Vietnam. It has a population of about 10 million people and is commonly known as Saigon.
Oh.
Yes.
Good night.
Good night. That's another musical. Miss Saigon? Is that the name of it?
It's Good Night Saigon.
Good Night Saigon.
It might be Miss Saigon, and there might be a song called Good Night Saigon.
Yeah. You, who I cradled in my arms, you.
Why is it Good Night to Saigon, but Good Morning to Baltimore? Double standard.
Well, that was because of Vietnam War. They're trying to. Anyways, Vietnam, like I said earlier, has 98 million citizens throughout the entire country. It also, Ho Chi Minh City also has the largest financial center in Vietnam, and most international trading comes out of the city. It comes as no surprise then that Truong got her start in business helping her mother sell cosmetics at a market as a stall vendor there, actually at the oldest market in the city. So fun fact, we all know that products are most of our products, a large amount of our products are actually manufactured in China. However, it is becoming increasingly popular for companies to have their goods manufactured in Vietnam instead of in China. And we're going to talk more about that a little bit later, but I did not know that until I did this episode. So a lot of people are actually trying to shift their manufacturing into Vietnam. Why? Not totally sure, but
I would be worried there's more child labor.
Well, that's probably what part of the issue is that China's getting some regulations.
I bet to say no. It's probably the geopolitical climate between.
I think
China
that's
and
more what it is.
And them thinking like they're going to just refuse to outsource to us, what they can't do because we're also their biggest buyer. But
right,
I don't know.
Who knows?
Macroeconomics is the hard.
I
don't know shit
I
about
almost
it.
fucking failed economics. Mr. Zakor did not even know how to help me. Although Truong had been in retail, she started buying properties after the Communist Party started a period of economic reform known as Doi Moi in 1986. And it may be Doi Mai. I'm gonna say Doi Mai. And if that's wrong, I apologize. Okay? So Doi Mai literally means revolution or innovation. This period of reform was brought about because Vietnam was facing a financial crisis. They had been in a contract, which again, I hope I'm pronouncing correctly. Pretty sure it's pronounced Comic-Con.
It can't be Comic-Con.
What? So how else would you say that?
The largest Comic-Con? No,
Comic-Con?
that just sounds like Comic-Con with a really bad accent. I don't know. I'm sorry.
I'm going to say Comic-Con. I think it's Comic-Con.
I don't think it's Comic-Con.
I don't know. I'm
dude.
going to call it Comic-Con.
They showed up. They're by, hey, can I get a first edition Victory Comics, please? No. Oh, my God. If it is, that's hilarious.
Com-Con? Whatever. They were in a contract with the Soviet Union, and they relied heavily on trade with the Soviet Union. And once this agreement was dissolved, Vietnam was forced to liberalize trade, which means they had to reduce or remove barriers to the free exchange of goods between countries. That's what that means, to liberalize. And they had to devalue their exchange rate. This caused inflation to soar 700%, which then slowed economic growth. Obviously, kind of feels like we're dealing with that right now in America. I don't think it's 700% though.
Dude, inflation's like literally like 7%.
Feels
Which
like
is high.
700. Feels like 700.
700 is like Argentina status. Like it's bad.
Well, they were bad. And once Doi Mai was introduced, the GDP, gross domestic product, of the country grew about 6% each year until 1997.
Woo!
Yeah. The standard of living and the standard of production grew over this time, and the extra revenue that the government was receiving went into impoverished areas, and this caused the poverty rate to decline.
Hell yeah.
So they actually did what they should have done.
There we go.
Yeah. This is one, they are communist at this point, or they still are. and not capitalist. So this is one situation where, okay, this is where some good came about. According to the World Bank, the introduction of doi May took Vietnam from one of the world's poorest nations to a middle income economy in one generation.
That is crazy.
Which is absolutely insane. And this economic reform not only caused Vietnam to prosper, but Truong My Lan as well. By the time the 90s rolled around, Truong owned many hotels and restaurants. In 1992, she and her family started the company there's a lot of names I'm just going to try my best with today. All right. Her family started the company Van Tin Phat, which became one of the wealthiest real estate firms in Vietnam. The company owns some of the nicest buildings in the country, including a 39-story Times Square Saigon, the Windsor Hotel, Capitol Place, which is a 37-story building, and the Sherwood Residence Hotel, where Truong lived before her arrest. She was using the Saigon Commercial Bank to help fund her real estate ventures so that she could get a hold of the most prized real estate locations. It is said that she controlled the bank from 2012 to 2022.
Damn, literally going from like selling makeup on like a little stall to running a national bank.
Yeah.
Not the national bank, but
a
national bank.
She shouldn't have been running the national bank though. She was not put in charge of that bank. We're going to find out more. Now, all of the land in Vietnam is state owned. So in order to get access to it, you have to know somebody. And obviously, this is a breeding ground for corruption. And luckily, Truong My Lan had the connections that she needed. By 2011, Truong was a prominent figure in Ho Chi Minh City. Her power allowed her to arrange a merger of 3 small banks that were not doing well into a larger bank known as Saigon Commercial Bank.
Yes,
so,
go off. Girl boss.
Girl boss. Yes. I mean, honestly, this would be a girl boss move if she didn't girl con.
Create commerce. Yes.
Yes, queen. Because her status in Ho Chi Minh and with the Saigon Commercial Bank, Truong was able to make the bank her puppet, controlling many aspects of the bank to ensure she got the loans that she wanted. And she would often have a hand in hiring managers and would influence them in allowing her to take out loans. Now, in Vietnam, it is illegal for one person to own more than 5% of shares at any one bank. It is said that Truong owned about 90% of the shares at Saigon Commercial Bank, and she was able to pull this off because of shell companies that she owned, as well as people acting on her behalf, making it look as if she wasn't the one taking out the loans. Truong had more than 1,000 foreign and domestic shell companies that she would funnel money into.
And this is to buy the shares of the bank?
So she was getting loans from the bank and then funneling them into her companies so that she could buy up more properties.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Her 2,500 loans make up for 93% of the bank's lending. So she was really using the bank, the whole bank, as her personal bank account.
That's wild, actually. And this is like a big bank. Whoop.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if someone just came out and said like, oh yeah, JP Morgan Chase, turns out just like 95% of the money was going to like Warren Buffett to buy, prostate massagers. Literally,
that's basically what was happening.
Crazy.
One of the sketchy things that Truong would do is this is only one thing that she would do, but this was crazy. She would have one of her drivers take out cash for her, and over the course of 3 years, her driver took out more than 108 trillion Vietnamese dong.
Oh, I thought only 98 million people lived in the entire country.
That is their currency, the dong.
It is one of the more hilarious choices for currency.
Yeah,
I
it's
will
pretty
say.
funny. Yeah. So 100.
It's only rivaled by the South Sudan penis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And 108 Vietnamese dong equals $4 billion US dollars. So
That's a lot. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of cash. It's a lot of cash. So he got about $4 billion out of the bank for her, and they kept it in her basement. That is an incredible emergency fund. And it said that all that cash weighed about 2 tons.
There's
A whole elephant of cash.
If there's a tornado, you got reinforced walls down there, I guess. I don't know.
But I think they have tsunamis.
I don't know.
Well, you would not know.
I barely know where this is. You know I'm terrible at geography.
Oh, it's south of China.
You have to show me on a map, okay? Okay?
Yeah,
There's
south
a lot
of
of things
China.
south of China.
Okay, well,
Australia.
it's in between
South of
those two.
China.
Truong would also bribe government officials in order to keep her activity under wraps. She bribed one official with $5 million. She paid him $5 million in bribes, and he now has a life sentence in prison.
$5 million US dollars? Or did
Yes.
she pay him in dong?
She paid him in dong, but
But it wasn't 5 million dong.
it was a
whatever.
lot more dong.
Okay, it was more dong than that.
She gave him a lot of dong.
Okay, got it.
She really gave that dong to him good.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm just saying, yeah, she loaded him up with
She blew
dong.
his back out with all.
Because I was
going
going to say, what are you going to use US dollars for? Isn't it dong much more useful? So that makes sense.
her loans have cost the bank an estimated loss of $27 billion.
That's a lot.
Yeah. In 2022, she had 1,300 unpaid loans at Saigon Commercial Bank, and it's estimated that she laundered $4.5 billion overseas from 2021 to 2022 alone. This is just an insane amount of money that just doesn't even seem real.
Yeah, if people get into the billions with a fraud, you're like, wow. So
Yeah.
multiple billions, multiple tens of billions. That's a lot of money.
Well, we're already at $8 billion from the laundering the money and the money in her basement. That's already $8 billion.
What was she even trying to do? What's the point of putting $4 billion in your basement?
So that one I never found the reasoning
there
for.
can't be a good reason
There's
to do that.
no good reason. Now, she did know that I think she knew that they were investigating her. And so I don't know if she wanted to keep this money so that she could get away or what.
You don't need $4
But
billion.
you don't need $4 billion in cash.
Yeah, I'm about to say all if you just have cash in your basement, it's only going to be worth less money.
Yeah.
So if you really want to steal effectively, this is not an endorsement. Put it into an offshore bank account and invest it in something that'll get you a return.
Well, that's what she was doing with $4.5 billion for the overseas. Things really started to crumble in October of 2022 when 3 Saigon Commercial Bank employees committed suicide on October 6th, 9th, and 14th. This actually ended up causing a bank run.
Yeah, never a good sign.
No.
I don't think it really generates bank confidence if a bunch of your executives start committing suicide.
No. And if you are unfamiliar, a bank run is when people withdraw money quickly from the bank because they think that the bank is going to go under. This famously happened in the 1930s in America and it was a huge contributing factor to the Great Depression. Mm-hmm. Don't pull your money out. It's not going to work. I think, we don't have a reason for why those people committed suicide, but I think that they knew that something was going to happen at the bank and they were they just knew that they were going to go to jail. Truong's fraud accounted for 3% of Vietnam's GDP in 2022.
That's wild.
That's fucking crazy.
For you to have a dent on your country's GDP is crazy.
It's actually crazy.
It's almost unfathomable.
Yeah.
Especially, this is not, it's not a tiny, island nation.
No. If this was happening in the middle of nowhere, yeah.
Like it's not America or China, but it's like, you know,
it's still it. I mean, they've gotten themselves to a middle income country. I don't even know if they're.
What can you?
I don't want to
look up what rank they are in the world out of all the countries? What rank is Vietnam's GDP?
35th. So
that's pretty high.
Yeah, they're the 35th largest economy in the world, 5th largest in Southeast Asia.
Okay, yeah, so 3% is crazy then.
Yeah, because it says as of March 2024, Vietnam's gross domestic product was estimated to be 433.3 billion. Yep. So you were 3% of that.
No, that is really an unfathomable amount of money.
That's crazy.
You know, even right now, we're probably not doing a good job at conveying exactly how much that is because the law of big numbers is
I'm
so
not even
hard.
going to lie to you guys. I don't even think I understand. There is nationwide concern in Vietnam that other banks are operating in the same way and that it just hasn't been discovered yet, which I think is a fair concern.
Yeah, also, because it can't be good when a bank like this. I mean, we've seen what happens when banks like this go under. It's not good.
Bad.
It's not good for you.
Nope.
So
very bad. But you know, she had been doing this for years and years and years, but she had been under investigation for a very long time, and she was finally arrested in October 2022. It's said that this case acquired 6 tons of documents that were monitored by cameras to make sure that none of the information went missing. Truong's case is the most sensationalized to come out of an ongoing anti-corruption drive that has been happening in Vietnam, and they have no plans on stopping. So in Vietnam, this campaign is referred to as a blazing furnace. I think that there's some language barrier there. Because to call something like this a blazing furnace in English doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But I think in Vietnamese it actually is perfect sense.
The blazing furnace campaign.
Yeah. Well, they're like, it is a blazing furnace.
Oh, okay. I thought that was like a nickname for it.
And well, I think it became a nickname because they're saying that like I think what they're trying to do is blaze the crime out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, or blaze the corruption out, but like I think it just doesn't really translate completely in English. Communist Party General Secretary Wen Phu Truong has said that the anti-corruption fight would continue for the long term. Since Vietnam has started their anti-corruption campaign, hundreds of government officials have been dismissed, including state presidents and prime ministers. This case has truthfully sent shockwaves not only through the country of Vietnam, but through the rest of the world. And Vietnam has seen many countries either pull out on manufacturing deals because of this case, or countries that are hesitant to do more business with Vietnam because of Truong's actions. The real estate market in Vietnam has also taken a substantial hit since this case exploded. I mean, she mainly dealt in real estate. And she dealt with real estate internationally, too. She had a lot of properties in China and stuff. She had a lot of connection to China. Her husband is from Hong Kong, and her family, I don't know how many generations back they were from China, you know, when they immigrated there and all that stuff.
But they have ties because you said they're Sino-Vietnamese. Right?
Yeah. So, you know, they had a lot of real estate in China and internationally. So the real estate market took a substantial hit since this case exploded. And it's estimated that 1,300 property firms have withdrawn from Vietnam since 2023. Many real estate developers have been offering discounts and gold for people to occupy their spaces. However, many multi-use properties are still sitting vacant in Ho Chi Minh City.
Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy to think about how, you know, I know that we've talked about Enron and we've talked about like the bubble bursting and stuff like that. But this feels a little bit crazier that like it wasn't just her. Like there were other people helping her.
But it's mostly her.
But it's mostly her that like one person has affected one country's economy so much.
No, yeah, that's great. Because, I mean, I think only the 2008 financial crisis is something we've talked about that would rival something like this. And that was literally like a bunch of people collectively making really poor decisions.
What was the housing market one in China that we talked about? Evergrande.
Yes. Evergrande.
Yeah, I think Evergrande is about it. This and Evergrande, but even Evergrande wasn't one person.
Yeah, no, it was once again a whole group of people.
Right.
That made really poor decisions. It was from like the policy level, not from like a fraud level. Like
Right.
Yeah.
Vietnam also saw an economic growth slow down. It slowed down to 5.5% in 2023. In 2022, they saw economic growth of 8.2%. So they saw a decrease of 3% in their economic growth since this happened. In March 2024, she went to trial for embezzlement, bribery, and violating bank regulations. Hundreds of police were sent out to Ho Chi Minh City to try to keep the peace because, I mean, people were pissed about this, as they should have been.
Was there like riots or something?
Not right. I think it was more
just people upset in the street in general.
Well, I also think a lot of it was precautionary.
Oh,
that they were like, it could get crazy, so we're just going to send police out there to like kind of. And I don't really know quite what like the police civilian relationship is in Vietnam. So I don't know if it's like, oh, the police are out there, I'm not going to do anything. Or if they're like, I don't fucking care. But I'm kind of getting more of the vibe that like, oh, okay, the police are here. Like, I'm not going to like cause too much of a stir.
Fair enough.
So during her trial, the court heard from 2,400 witnesses.
Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ.
The fact that it's already done is pretty crazy then.
Yeah, honestly. Her crimes were, quote, extremely elaborate, meticulous, and with detailed and carefully prepared scripts. She was sentenced to death by lethal injection on April 11th, 2024. Many people believe that they gave her such a serious sentence because the government thinks that she will pay off her debts faster in order to avoid the death penalty.
Can you do that? If they're
I don't know.
You get our loan back to us. Hey, maybe we don't kill you. They're like a loan shark.
I don't know. I don't even know enough about American law like that to even begin to know anything about Vietnamese law like that.
You definitely can't pay your reparations and then them not kill you. If
Well,
they sentence you to death and you can't appeal and get it overturned.
Right.
Then or your sentence gets commuted, you're going to die.
Yeah, listen, I'm not sure if it'll work, but regardless, she is going to be spending the rest of her life in prison, whether that is with legal injection or,
whether that's a short amount of time or a long amount of time.
Yeah. There were over 80 defendants in the whole case, 24 of which were government officials, including Truong's husband and niece. All of the defendants were found guilty, and they were either given between 3 years probation or life in prison. Truong's husband, Eric Chu Nap Ki, was given 9 years in prison, and her niece, Truong Hu Van, was given 17 years in prison for aiding her aunt in her schemes.
Jeez.
Truong's this niece, she like raised this niece like her daughter too, which is like adds a level of like ugh, to this whole thing, because it's like, damn, like this was like basically like her mom. I don't know.
Runs in the family.
Yeah. But I feel like I'm sure this niece was like manipulated into doing this, and that like she wasn't like, oh yeah, I'll help you. You know what I mean? That it was you're going to join the family business and you're going to do this.
She probably had a point where she could have stopped, but yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Truong's niece had admitted to starting 52 shell companies, and 4 of those companies obtained 155 loans from the Saigon Commercial Bank. With a case this large, there's not one simple fix. After being sentenced to death, the government froze 9 of her properties in Ho Chi Minh City, Hanoi, which is the capital, and Da Nang in June of this year. 79 bank accounts have also been frozen, in which have totaled more than $3.6 billion.
And they got that $4 billion from her basement?
Mm-hmm. Along with, I don't know, I'm not 100% sure, but probably. Along with this, bank transactions have also been blocked, as well as transactions of shares and capital contributions. These are not only Truong's transactions, but also transactions of those who are believed to be a part of the scheme. Van Tin Phat, her company, along with 13 other associated companies, are working with the government to pay back the missing money. Van Tin Phat has also started the process of selling a stock company and an international hotel to pay off the debt. In May of 2024, Van Tin Phat paid back the government about $8 million.
Yeah, that's not enough.
So we've got about another $26.5 billion to go.
Just keep working at it, buddy. You'll get there.
You'll get there eventually. Sloth, gluttony, lust, envy, wrath, pride, and greed. Those are the 7 deadly sins.
And the makings for a pretty cool set of Powerpuff Girls.
That's true. Truong My Lan was consumed with greed and let it cloud her judgment. By swindling the Saigon Commercial Bank, Truong left devastation that will affect Vietnam for generations to come. She used the Saigon Commercial Bank as her personal piggy bank, caring nothing for the consequences as she dove the company further and further into debt. Her greed will ultimately be her downfall, and her consequences more grave than she ever imagined. With a death sentence looming over her, the only loan she has now is her borrowed time. And
there's no interest. She gets no interest on it.
No interest.
Yeah.
No interest. That was Truong My Lan. Absolutely crazy. If any more developments, I'm sure there will be more developments in this story. I don't know if they'll let us know when they kill her.
I don't know. It's kind of nice they have the lethal injection because when we were talking earlier, I kind of still thought they'd be like firing squad.
Oh, God. Guillotine?
Yeah.
Guillotine. However you say it.
Guillotine, I think.
Guillotine.
Guillotine is how you say it if you're from the South. So I'm pretty sure it's guillotine.
Disembowelment.
What? That one hasn't been used.
Isn't that a way
lot.
you can kill someone?
You can.
Poison, which is lethal injection, basically.
Yeah, basically. It's just quicker.
Yeah.
You put it in your veins instead of your
In
tummy.
your food.
In your tummy.
In your tummy.
You know, make you like Socrates and drink hemlock.
Oh, man. Do you ever think somebody was on death row and had their last meal and their last meal gave them diarrhea? That would suck, dude.
Probably. They've had some whack-ass last meals. What if you asked for rat poison as your last meal? Like, you have to. You have to honor it. You have to give me whatever I ask for. I'm dying on my terms. One large box of rat poison, please.
Rat poison and antifreeze to wash it down.
It's sweet.
Is it?
Antifreeze? Yeah, it's made out of like glycerol. So it'll kill you, but it is sweet. It tastes sweet. Don't taste it, but it does.
I've never tried it.
Yeah. Or diethylene glycol. Remember that was in sulfanilamide that killed a bunch of kids?
No.
Oh, well. I know you don't remember. I don't know why I ask.
Do we talk about it on the episode?
Yeah, well, not this episode, obviously.
Well,
but
yeah.
The FDA episode, yeah. It's one of the inciting events that created the FDA.
With the polio vaccine?
That was a completely different episode. That was the cutter. That was the cutter incident.
I don't fucking know.
I know you don't.
I can't remember. We've had like
We gotta
100.
put you got to wrap this up. We got to put you back in cryostasis.
I know. Like, let me go to bed.
Yeah.
So that was the story of Truong My Lan. Crazy, crazy, crazy. If you liked that, there's more ways you can find us and get more Kashan and Nina in your life. You can do that by following us on social media at facebook.com/whitecollarsredhands. You can find us on Twitter or X at whitecollarspod. You can find us on Instagram at whitecollars_redhands. You can also find us on TikTok and YouTube at White Collars Red Hands. If you want another way to support us for free, you can leave us a rating. A lot of you are listening on Apple Podcasts, but if you're listening on Spotify, you can also leave a rating there. We love a 5-star rating, but an honest review is always good as well. If you want, another great way to support us is also by just letting people around you know that you listen to the podcast and that you enjoy it. Word of mouth is like some of the best publicity that you can get.
Yeah, if you're like listening on a bus, like just take off your headphones and be
and just like,
I'm listening to White Collars Red Hands,
and you're all gonna listen to White Collars Red Hands.
It's a good pot. Yeah, here, let me disconnect my headphones real quick and then play it at full volume.
So what we would like is for you to listen to this on public transit, so that then the people who do not have phones we'll ask you to play it on the bus, and then everyone on the bus will start to listen, or the train will start to listen to White Collars, Red Hands.
Yeah.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, we'd love if you'd go to Public and just play this out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great.
You could do that.
Yeah, sure.
Walk around the grocery store.
A new TikTok trend? New TikTok.
Listening to White Collars, Red Hands out loud in the store.
Yeah, playing podcasts obnoxiously loud in public.
I love it.
Yeah, it's great.
I mean,
Nothing
a
could go
lot of
wrong.
people already talk on speakerphone in public places, so why not listen to your podcast?
Yeah, might as well have two other people that none of you know speak out loud instead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. An unfree way to support us is by buying our merch. If you go to TeePublic and click on, if you go to TeePublic, the way you can get there is by going to our website, clicking on the merch tab. It'll take you over to TeePublic and you can buy something with our logo on it. And if you ever hear of a White Collar story and you're like, Nina and Kashawn should cover that, please either DM us on our social medias or email us at whitecollarsredhands@gmail.com, and we will try to get that covered next season. I think that's it.
I think that's it too.
All right. Well, we will see you next time on another episode of White Collars,
Red Hands.